The morning did not arrive like it used to. The air was heavy, clinging to the mud walls like memory. The sun peeked shyly behind the dust clouds, as if hesitant to witness what was unfolding. The city of Mohenjo-Daro, once a humming heartbeat of life and trade, lay in a blanket of fog and forgotten gods. The streets were quiet, not with peace, but with warning. Elam, a man of no great fame or fortune, rose from his clay bed. His eyes held the weight of years, not just his own, but of those who came before him. His hair was dusted with gray, his hands cracked like the bricks he laid in his youth. He was neither a priest nor a warrior, not a trader nor a scholar. He was a common man. But in the cracks of his silence, entire civilizations whispered. His wife still slept beside him, her breath shallow, tired. Their children, curled on reed mats, dreamed of water, of colors, of laughter, things that were beginning to vanish like the morning mist. Elam quietly took the clay pot near the door. It was empty. The water jars hadn't been filled in 2 days. The Indus, the great river that once sang to their ancestors, was receding. Some said it was angry. Others said the gods had turned their faces. Elam didn't believe either. He simply knew the water was leaving. He stepped out. The streets were cold and cracked. The homes around him, built with care generations ago, now bore wounds. Clay had chipped, and some roofs had caved in. The once bustling central market was a skeleton of its former self. There had been a time when this street gleamed with beads and bangles, spices and salt, laughter and music. Now it echoed with footsteps, his own. As he walked past the shrine of the river goddess, he saw a woman kneeling, hands lifted, whispering a prayer with trembling lips. Her husband lay nearby with fever, unmoving. "The healer says the stars are silent," she whispered as Elam passed. He didn't speak. What words could replace water? He made his way past the city's great drainage system, a marvel in its time, one that had brought pride to the people of Mohenjo-Daro. The world would later call it one of the greatest feats of early civilization. But now, those drains were dry, clogged with dust and insects. The silence of flowing water was louder than any roar. At the riverbank, he knelt. The once mighty Indus now lapped lazily at its own edge, reduced to puddles and cracked soil. He filled the pot carefully, avoiding the insects and the strange green scum that floated on the surface. The water tasted bitter. Perhaps it had forgotten its path. As he turned back toward home, he stopped by the market's corner where artisans used to display their wares. A small necklace of clay beads hung from a crooked stall. His daughter had made it, using broken shells and worn bronze chips. He had brought it to sell, hoping to trade it for a bit of grain or a pinch of salt. But no one was buying ornaments anymore. Beauty was no longer a currency. "They don't want beads anymore," an old carpenter told him, his fingers trembling. "Only bread." Elam tucked the necklace back into the fold of his robe. He would lie, tell his daughter it had been bought by a queen from the south. That someone had admired her craft. Sometimes, lies are the last form of love. By evening, he sat on the flat rooftop of his home, watching the sky change from amber to ash. The wind was restless. His father, now nearly blind, joined him, coughing as he sat. "We never fought wars, Elam," the old man said. "We built, we grew, we traded. We made homes, not weapons." Elam looked at the stars. Once, they had seemed so full of answers. Now they just watched, cold and distant. Suddenly, a loud crack split the silence. A gust of wind rushed through the alleys. Animals began to panic. Children cried. The river had turned violent. The wind carried the scent of earth and rot. It was as if the city itself had begun to shudder. Elam rushed inside, holding his wife and children close. Outside, water crept through the streets. Clay walls collapsed. Shouts echoed through the darkness, some calling for help, others for the gods. That night, Mohenjo-Daro breathed its last breath as it had lived its first, in silence and sand. When morning came, it was not morning. It was aftermath. Half the city was submerged or broken. What remained was ruin. Homes had crumbled. Markets were swept away. The shrine was gone. The woman who had prayed, gone. And Elam's home, the small life he had built with such patience and love, was now a story the river chose not to tell. Elam was never found. Years, no, centuries, passed. Long after the world had forgotten the songs of the Indus and the quiet genius of Mohenjo-Daro, long after new empires rose and fell, a group of archaeologists stood at the edge of history. They dug carefully, brushing dust from bones and brick. One day, they found a necklace, small, broken, made of clay beads and bronze chips. Beside it, they uncovered the fragile bones of a man, arms curved as if still protecting something. They didn't know his name. They didn't know his silence. They didn't know he had once lied to his daughter to make her smile. They didn't know that for one day, his last day, he had carried the soul of a civilization on his shoulders. But the necklace remembered. And so, in that single, delicate artifact, Elam lived again, not as a king, not as a warrior, but as something far greater, the heart of a people who simply tried to live, love, and endure.